Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we got the visual confirmation as part of Sneak Peek 4 for what I talked about in the other video about Molten Man and Hydro Man. So I do believe I am repeating myself quite a bit in today's video, so I apologize for that. But we do have a lot more new visuals about these two possible characters, and then we have a bunch of other things that I want to talk about to cover, along with your reactions and the community's thoughts, and then some stuff in-game that was missing that is now added, and kind of the situation behind that. So on Twitter, we're not really going to cover it too closely because the Mobarum one, or the Netmarble one is more interesting. But on Twitter, they said Spider-Man is sure to have his hands full with these two elemental villains, hashtag Marvel Future Fight. And it shows this same image that we see here with Spider-Man looking at these 2 feet, and obviously these 2 feet belong to Hydro Man on the left and Molten Man on the right. Now there's a report here talking about possible threats to Europe, or in Europe, so they're kind of playing up the Spider-Man Far From Home theme here on the Netmarble website. And then there's information about the enemy, and you're taking a good look at the image that was captured, and then you have to do a little bit of URL hunting. And I love this one. As always, I really like these sneak peeks, and I have to say, right off the bat, the thing that I really like the most about this pre-sneak peek, yeah, say that 5 times fast, is Spider-Man's spider sense. I was forgetting the word, but yeah, the fact that they drew this in is great, but the possibility that Spider-Man could have that pop over his head when he's about to get attacked with certain abilities, or perhaps it's one of his new passives, either his new tier 2 passive or new 4-star passive, or possibly a uniform bonus effect. It would just be so cool. They've always had really great details for Spider-Man. You know, going back to Homecoming, his uniform was so detailed with the goggles and everything. And then for Infinity War, his sort of inspired by Iron Spider suit had the red eyes when it activated the buff. And we know that there are so many characters in Marvel Future Fight that have visual cues for when things are going down. Captain Marvel when she goes radiant, you know? So if they were able to, or if they could incorporate the spider sense, the tingling, the Peter Tingle, into the game, into Marvel Future Fight, it would be so cool. It would give it such a realistic comic book feel. I would personally love that. Now, as far as getting to the second sneak peek, which is the thumbnail, which is a much better image of these two villains, you want to use this URL here, and you want to just copy it up to here, and then type in either Hydro Man, no spaces, and the caps don't matter, or Molten Man, all one word, no spaces, no underscore, no hyphens, no caps. So this is what you get when you type either one of those. It doesn't matter which one, and we get a much cooler image of this kind of ghostly shade looking dude. I really hope that they bring the actual character's face, but they might not. And then we have Molten Man, and Molten Man looks especially cool. He's got bars of metal and steel sticking out of his body to indicate that, you know, he's got skin underneath, and he just looks like a badass. And he's got multiple arms as well. He's got one big one on this side, he's got 2 on that side, so it's really cool. He looks like a monster straight out of like Dark Souls or something. So I love that. And then we got Spider-Man again with the spider sense. I'm loving the spider sense. Now, what I wanted to do, one of the first things I wanted to do was particularly for Molten Man, because I think a lot of people are familiar with Hydro Man, especially if you've watched Spider-Man the animated series. Mary Jane! That dude's like obsessed with Mary Jane. But Molten Man, honestly, like, we have very little idea what this character is about. So I actually tried to fish out some comic book stuff about Molten Man, because honestly I don't really have much idea of him, but I couldn't find any good comic series that, or even issues that had Molten Man. The only ones that I found, he looks super lame. He looks like a weird version of Hammerhead that's all gold. He looks like Hammerhead dipped in gold. It's really strange, and he's boring as hell. He just, like, he runs through walls, he like melts through walls, and he punches and he kicks and he screams, and he's like, I'm gonna melt you. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. That's literally like shit he says. And then he just gets beaten up by Spider-Man. Honestly, the thing that I learned the most from this Molten Man comic book perusing that I wanted to do for you guys is that Spider-Man has a really cool new skill ability right here that he could eventually get. If he doesn't get it with his Far From Home uniform, and if he doesn't do this in the movie, he might do it in a future uniform or in a future movie. He basically develops flame-resistant webbing, and this is kind of one of the really cool aspects of Spider-Man, is the scientist side of him, and it doesn't really get that much show and that much limelight compared to his athletic, acrobatic, agility-based movements and his strength as the Spider-Man, but the Peter Parker side of things, creating the technology, you know, working with GPS and stuff like that, and making those different types of webbings, whether it's, you know, shock absorbing webbing for Electro, or whether it's webbing that's gonna you know, protect against sound waves for Shocker, or webbing that's gonna be too strong so that Dr. Octopus can't break out of it, or whatever it is, webbing that's gonna protect him against Scorpion's acid. In this case, it's protecting him against fire. So he webs up his hands, and he's obviously, as you can see in the last panel, starts punching Molten Man. And there's an even cooler comic if we kind of get out of this one and we go over to the other one that I saved for you guys. No, go back. We're gonna start at the beginning. This one is a little bit cooler, and basically this is a full. We're just gonna run really quickly through the full comic. Sorry, I don't want to cut anything off, so I'm just gonna zoom this out. It's not a very interesting comic, I'll be honest with you. Like this particular issue, the run itself is fine. This is like 1999 Amazing Spider-Man, and basically he goes over to, he's got a grudge to pick with Osborn, Norman Osborn's kid, Harry, and he basically tries to kill him. So whatever, Spider-Man shows up and he's just like, oh, he's melting through the wall. Very exciting stuff, and really not that interesting at all. And you know, he's melting through walls again, blah blah blah, melting again, etc. You know, Spider-Man shows up, starts fighting him, kicking, punching, Osborn punching, his hands on fire, takes off his thing here, blah 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 blah. They talk about the guy, the Molten Man, Mark I think his name is. And then whatever, Harry fishes something out of his car to kill or to subdue Molten Man. For some reason he has that. Dude starts fighting Spider-Man. It's still cut off, dang it. He's, you know, they're still fighting, but it's really just not that interesting. I really expected a lot more spectacle out of Molten Man, but he really does not deliver on the spectacle. And this is just a really boring way of showing off his powers. Like, look at what Spider-Man's doing. He's doing like a backflip with his legs spread out, as opposed to Molten Man, who is punching and kicking. And he looks kind of freaky here. He looks more like Molten Man than gold-dipped Hammerhead. But again, we see the same exact move from Spider-Man, and it's really cool. I think it's awesome. I would love to see Spider-Man have a move like this. I know this was supposed to be about Molten Man, but I really don't have anything cool to say about Molten Man. But I have a lot of cool things to say about Spider-Man. So if Spider-Man got an ability, or if it was part of a passive effect where he got more physical damage, let's say like a buff, and then his fists were webbed up, that would be so cool. But anyways, he webs up his fists, starts punching Molten Man. Molten Man's all upset, etc. You know, he's got the boxer stance. He knocks Molten Man down. Molten Man starts getting really hot. He kind of can't control, or he gets really upset, so he kind of starts heating everything up. He heats up the asphalt underneath him for the pavement on the road, and then the asphalt starts melting in with him and kind of subduing him, because it's, you know, it's quite resistant to heat, so it obviously starts cooling him down, and then he ends up just turning into like a human form, and he gets taken away. I believe he's right there on the stretcher. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you guys in terms of like exciting Molten Man comic stuff, and that would basically be the only suggestions that I have for his skills. So yeah, I don't really have any suggestions. So if anyone out there is like a big Molten Man fan, and you guys could you know, shine some light on the character and some abilities he could have, I imagine he's going to be a really cool character. Judging from the sneak peek, you know, it already looks very, very cool visually, but then we have to address the sort of thoughts of the community in terms of what these characters are going to be. And some people have already speculated that we're not actually going to be getting Molten Man and Hydro Man as playable characters. Now, personally, judging from the level of detail on Molten Man, Hydro Man not really, but judging on the level of detail in the Molten Man image, it would be strange if he was only a boss. Now, it's possible that he would be a world boss, although unlikely, because honestly, Spider-Man Far From Home is not such a global update that it would influence the world boss stage, but it would kind of make sense to put the elementals here as world bosses, maybe introduce a new sort of resource, maybe just introduce different ways of farming, maybe up the world boss requirements or the world boss entrances per day from 5 to 10 or whatever. But it's also possible, and some people have said that they could be new giant bosses. Like, you know, one day it's Hydro Man, or one day it's Molten Man, or maybe it's both of them together, like you fight them both at the same time and you have to deal with different abilities. I don't know, it all seems a bit rushed to me because they just released the survey for Giant Boss Raid and what we think, so they can't really take our suggestions into account before the update. And if the update's coming in a week, they've already finalized pretty much everything they're going to do, and now they're just going through and testing everything to make sure it doesn't crash when it opens. So I'm not really sure. If I were going to bet, I would say that Hydro Man and Molten Man are going to be new characters. It's a lot of effort to put into the sneak peeks and for Marvel to announce that they're going to be coming to the game if they're not going to be playable at all. If they're going to be like NPCs, just bosses, just villains, just opponents. So we'll have to wait and see, but it will be interesting regardless. I want to see their typing, I want to see their skills, I want to see how they animate, regardless of whether they're playable or not, but I hope and I think that they will be playable. Now, the other big thing that was going around recently, well, yesterday, is the Alliance shop. So if you don't know, the double donation came into effect, but the store was not updated with all of the new items. So all of these items you see here, boost points, hidden tickets, Norn stones, black antimatter, crystals, and phoenix feathers, all of this stuff was unavailable until now, until like an hour before I started recording. So as of this video, you still have, I believe, 2 hours from the drop of this video to purchase this stuff for the first day, and you won't miss it. You should have already donated, because the donation doesn't matter. You'll always get the double donation no matter what, but you just couldn't spend it on those extra things. Now, keep in mind a couple of things here. I'll just remind you guys, I save up my Alliance mementos, and I always save them up, and I never donate them until we have a double event, because the double event will also double your mementos. So instead of donating and getting 20 tokens, I will donate 300 mementos and get 40 tokens. It's not a huge difference, but I get an extra 20 tokens every day that I donate. So I've saved up, you can see there, 1,700. I'll be able to donate at least 6 times, and I'll be able to get an additional 120 tokens at minimum, and I'd be getting more if I actually cared about Alliance Conquest and I helped my Alliance out, but I'm a lazy ass, so I don't. But anyways, you should also make sure that you, when you spend the Alliance tokens that you get, and when you spend them to get boost points, that you already have 100 boost points. So in my case, I already have 100 boost points. So when I go and I collect those boost points from the store, they will go immediately into my boost point amount. So I'm going to collect 50 here, and I'm going to collect 50 again. I honestly recommend everyone, unless you're like super strapped on gold and you can't donate, I recommend everyone who is donating to pick up the hidden tickets and the boost points. This is part of the reason and part of the reason why I always have hidden tickets available, is because I always get them when they are available, whether it's from token events or whether it's from Alliance events. So you can see there I now have 200 boost points, and that's basically how it works, and so it won't go into your inventory. So just be careful. If you have 0 boost points, you probably don't want to buy them, because, well, I mean, it's 100 boost points either way. You could use them for GBR, but it's just a little bit different. The final thing I want to point out that I actually was supposed to talk about earlier about Molten Man is that the token, the Dimension token, matches Molten Man's colors. Now, again, that could not be, that might not be anything, but it might also be a proof that Molten Man and Hydro Man are going to be playable characters, and that the new character that you can redeem the tokens for is in fact going to be Molten Man, or possibly both Molten Man and Hydro Man, since they're similar elemental type characters. So with that being said, let me know what you think of Molten Man and Hydro Man. If you've got more information on these characters, specifically Molten Man and what he can do and what his skills would look like in game. I honestly couldn't find any good comic book coverage from him, and I haven't seen him anywhere in the animated shows, at least the stuff that I watched when I was younger. I haven't seen any of the newer stuff, like for kids, like the Disney XD or whatever it's called, DX. But yeah, if you have more information, hit me up in the comments below. Hit me up with some links or whatever. Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you later today. Take care.